safer and healthier. The second one is around land use, public spaces, and parks. So there we'll be talking about, again, how our land is used in the city, what sort of things you want to see in your parks. I already heard some chatter about pools, and that conversation probably happened in that room. I heard that came up as this morning yesterday around pools. So that room, if you want to discuss parks and the future of our land use in the city, come to that room. And then lastly, there's a conversation around fair and affordable housing. And we'll talk about that history that Ethan talked about in terms of where people were located in the city and where they were housed, and what is the current status of our housing sector here in the city of Elyria when it comes to fair.
That's the one.
So I encourage you to choose a room, dive all the way in, fully engaged, make your voice heard. You'll get dismissed from your rooms again, and afterwards you'll be able to get some pizza and as well as fill out the survey. But I'm appreciative of y'all taking this leap of faith, trying something different this year. If you know anything about me over this course of these past 3 years, it's been trying to do things different. I appreciate y'all being willing to try out something new. Which really good feedback, which are really good practices. So 11:30 on the dot. You are dismissed.
They blah 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 like that. Whatever. Grab me some waters and sit down. Ooh, boom, 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 boom.
So after this, y'all doing something after you're doing Mike's video, you got to transition. But that's where I'm gonna ask my question.
Please feel free to get some water, grab a snack, grab a seat, wherever you like. So it's already up. Chase, you and I.
How you doing? What?
Yep, you gotta come in here and make it look like this.
I gotta come in here?
Oh, yeah.
All right, say look. Up here, back out here.
No, yeah, you wanna present? You ready to present?
I can sit up here. Just as long as
I'll sit up for a few minutes.
Hi.
Hello.
Please help yourself.
Are these waters for us?
Why are you stealing our snacks? It's over there on that table.
Oh, okay.
I mean, you can have mine, but
No, that's yours.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Instead of you.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Where Marco?
How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
So I'm starting at slide 140, right?
Oh, good. It's always good to pay.
Back.
It's always good to pay how many yeah, so it sounds like it's your Tom and then Ethan. Right?
Yeah. Could be lying. I'm not sure.
That's what I'll pick up.
But let's roll with it.
I'll do whatever.
I'm just trying to hide my slides. So.
Do whatever.
Steve, you don't want to sit right here?
You don't live here anymore.
Okay. Dolores.
Oh my.
Sounds like what I would do about.
I just want to make sure that there was
Hey, how are you? I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
This is the orchestra room.
Oh, okay.
I didn't know.
They the bully.
I really don't like
She
that.
pulled my hoodie.
I did not put
And Bella ran me.
I'm gonna tell her. I really don't like that. I'm gonna tell her.
Listen,
He for sure gets
Mus Mary was a wild and she pulled my hoodie.
I'm a witness. I'm the victim. And she's the victim.
Oh my.
I was from her.
Well, this is a different story.
Yeah. Like, I want them.
Yeah, like that you got on there, sir.
Thank you, thank you. Oh, not me what?
Yeah. I'm gonna have to get me some bags so I can look like him. This is not. I know this is number 3.
No, she's talking about the, no, she was asking about the level.
No, this is 3.
Oh,
Yeah, this is how. My God, over here.
She said, how many levels? How many floors are there?
Oh, no, this is 9.
Here, I'll come in.
Okay,
How are you?
So I still got popcorn. Hi. Sure, I can do that too.
We should probably put it by the snacks.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
Yeah.
Everybody, can you all sign in after this next for us? Have as many snacks as you want. We have plenty.
I'll hurry up. Oh, come on, China.
Hey, no, how you doing? Good.
Good morning.
Please sign in, everybody.
Your face is cute. You're welcome. You remember me? It's all right. I was so sick, so I was healthy.
Good morning, my sister.
Good morning. How you doing?
Okay, how you doing? All right. Good morning. Come on. Hey, this chair back here looking a little uncomfortable. Here, sit down, sit down. Find a seat.
What'd you say?
Find a seat. Girl, you gonna bring kids. You like,
What? I got one mine and one of land.
get them involved, honey.
Yeah.
Yeah. You want a snack? Okay,
Well, I gotta sign my name.
put your bag up. Would you put your bag?
Are we gonna put them?
Okay. Put your snack. Come on back there. Sit down.
There you go. Just put it on. I didn't know where any of these
Right.
things are anymore.
They got the kids supposed to be telling you up there in the hallway.
Oh, okay.
My phone is dead. I need to charge. I got no more charge. Tell County we're in room 3. You there?
Did you get you some water? You want something to drink?
I will get some more.
Get your water. Take your time. Don't you're in front of people. Say excuse me.
Okay. I know they gonna run.
Run.
See, I just got so sick last night like this because she would have no.
Yeah, Keisha had one on. I'm like, where's my shirt? She said, Keisha,
All she
I'm
got
like,
all she got left is one large.
Keisha got something. Okay. I need a shirt.
Well, she's gonna start making black t-shirts next week.
Feel free to grab snacks.
I gotta get because I I have a dream shirt.
Phone number is.
She said okay.
Charge my phone is dead.
Grandma,
What?
you said okay. I told her that.
What up, boy?
She made all those. Mine, she made those. Six, 580. Yeah, I'm sure.
Don't provide food. Okay, okay, I got you. All right. I got her in there.
I'm gonna give that look.
Hello. Feel free to grab some snacks and water. You can please try to get one of your designs.
Get the coat down. You want it down? Okay. Okay.
I'm by my right here. It's wet.
Oh, yeah.
Me and Keisha were just talking about it. Oh, really? Mm-hmm. Yeah, awesome.
Yo, yo.
That might be for sure. Oh, no, you know they're going on a
So well put together. I know.
Did you sign up?
No, I did not.
I'm going to one with Toya K. Third year from now. She's going on West. With Island. Okay. That's why I want to go.
Okay.
So that's what I want to go
Wow.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Okay.
What's that, Brenda?
Hey, girl. Okay. Until Jane, I saw you.
All right, everyone. Thank you all for joining us.
Hey, Brenda.
Let a few folks filter in while we get started. Just want to introduce myself. My name is Mark Lorain II. I'm the mayor's liaison for the city of Elyria. And I'm here on this wonderful panel as we talk about fair and affordable housing, joined by some lovely panelists, the president and CEO of Elyria, Ms. Paris Smith.
Hi,
Founder of the Black Legacy Connection Project, Mr. Ethan West. And then board president of the Elyria Community Partnership, Mr. Mike Griffin. So we're gonna dive into the topic. I'm glad to see everybody in this room. As you can see, this is a topic that affects our community. A topic that there's a lot of knowledge to gain, and sometimes, you know, we want to be able to take these steps, and sometimes we don't know where to go, what outlet to go. And this board and these panels are definitely going to help guide that conversation and have any questions that you guys may have hopefully answered this next hour. So I know we're going to start off with
Hi, everybody. How y'all feeling?
Good morning. Great.
All good? Okay. All right. We're going to talk to each other, okay? I don't want this to be boring.
Yeah, it's not a quiet room.
So, to get started, I just want to tie in. Today is Martin Luther King Day, and what brings us here today is we're celebrating Martin Luther King's 94th birthday. In today's session, we want to reflect on his efforts to improve social and economic conditions for Blacks, knowing that housing was a critical part of the work that he did, even though we don't talk about that often. So, in January of 1966, in Chicago, Illinois, there was a Chicago Freedom Movement really trying to work to get better housing for Black people. And so they were like, we're living in the slums, and we need somebody to come and help us. So they called Martin Luther King, and Martin Luther King did something that shocked the nation. He decided to move his family to Chicago. How many of y'all knew that? Okay. All right, I got 2, 3. All right, good. So Martin Luther King on January 26, 1966, he moved to Chicago on the 3rd floor of this apartment building. And so on the screen, you'll see in Coretta Scott King's, Martin Luther King's wife, her memoir, she says that she recalls her family moving into a Chicago apartment they would call home. Our apartment was on the 3rd floor of a dingy building, which had no lights in the hall, only one dim bulb at the head of the stairs. As we walked in, the smell of urine was overpowering. We were told that this was because the doors were always open and the drunks came in off the streets and used the hallways as the toilet. Woo, right? I was like, that's a lot. That's a lot to true. I was like, woo wee. So if you haven't read her book, I suggest that maybe that could be a read for you for this year. So on July 10th, so 6 months later, on July 10th, 1966.
Hey, what was that book called again?
It's called My Life. Let me back up. Look, that's why we're here. It's called My Life with Martin Luther King by Coretta Scott.
Oh, okay. I'm definitely have to check that out.
So, on July 10th, 1966, they had a march. A march somewhat like today, that whoever participated in the march, but a lot more people. And so they marched, and Martin Luther King gave a speech, and then they went down to City Hall, and Martin Luther King taped the letter on the door asking the mayor of the city to end housing discrimination. So then, things started not getting better all the way, but for lack of a better word, we'll say started getting a little bit better in Chicago. And then on April 4th, 1968, so 2 years later, Martin Luther King was assassinated. We all know that, right? Well, somebody killed him, right? So on April 11th of 1968, so 1 week later, President Lyndon B. Johnson used this as this national tragedy to mobilize people, to pass the Civil Rights Act of 1968, which included the Fair Housing Act of 1968, okay? So fair housing means you and your family have equal opportunities to choose where you live, depending only on whether you are able to pay that rent or mortgage, not based on your color, based on what the deed says, things of that nature, without being discriminated against or targeted differently than other people. So real quick, we're gonna talk about what that Fair Housing Act looks like and what our rights are. So when the Fair Housing Act was created in April of 1968, there was only a few protected classes, and then over the course of time, they extended those classes. So the Federal Fair Housing Act prohibits discrimination based on your race, your religion, your color, your sex, your national origin, your familial status, and your disability. Okay, and then Ohio, each state can add their own protected classes. So in the state of Ohio, we also have protected classes for military status and ancestry. And then, and a lot of people don't know that, so that's interesting. You might want to check that out. And then, we also, some local laws can be put in place for marital status, for creed, age, and source of income. So that could be like, if you have a Section 8 voucher, they should not be able to discriminate against you and say, you know what, we're not going to take your Section 8 voucher because we just don't feel like it today. Unless that property just doesn't take them at all, that's some of the exceptions, but there are places like that are only for 55 and older, which are seniors, right? So only 55 and older can live here. Then that means if you got 3 kids, you can't live there, which is an exception. But if there's a housing development and they put all the kids in the back of the housing development and then all the older people in the front, that's housing discrimination. Like if they have a property in the front of that building, you should be able to stay in that because that's the available property. Does that make sense? Yeah? Okay. So, when we're thinking about what fair housing says is prohibited, it's back to what I was saying. So refusing to rent to somebody. So say there's a rental sign outside and Ethan goes with his daughter and like ready to put an application, and then they say, the property just was rented. But then say somebody else that we know, Mike, goes with his daughter. I don't know if he has a daughter, but say he has a daughter, and he goes to put the application in, and then they're all jolly on the spot like, oh, we would love to have you. That's not how this works. So a lot of times what we still do is do things called testing. So we'll send a couple to go see what's happening. And then we'll send another couple to see what's happening. We might call on the phone and ask for information, and then have somebody else with a different type of voice call and ask for information. We also see that, and I think that's a couple slides up, but we also see it in ads. So if you see an ad for an apartment complex or for a certain home, and it just got all white people on it, I say, hold on, wait a second. Is this for everybody? Because we're only providing, if you don't see you on it, you not going there. So we like try to encourage them, like they need to diversify their ads. They need to make sure that they're giving everybody a chance. Now, if Ethan filled out the application and he can't afford it, and they gave the apartment to Mike, that's okay because he can't afford it. So just being mindful of these things, because a lot of times we don't say nothing. We don't file any housing complaints because we don't know that it's against the law. So refusing to sell to somebody, if you don't want to sell your home because they black, like everybody money is green. Just give you my check. Yes?
So is it illegal for them to have only white people on the ad? Or is it just frowned upon? You go and encourage
No,
them?
technically it is.
So if you see all white people on the ad, you should report that to fair housing?
I mean, you could, but it depends. Like, have you seen every ad they have? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a balance. It's very great.
Okay.
Yeah, fair housing is very great.
I'm all over recording, so I mean, like,
yeah.
I see ads all the time. I'm just curious. Like,
yeah. So if there's an apartment complex around here that I notice never has people of color on their ad, then I'll like call and ask.
And then I'm sorry, but they're gonna go through their project, and then at the end there will be room for questions. So keep those questions in the line.
Mark said we're gonna get off the topic.
No, because I know they want to talk. Yeah.
Mark said reel it in.
Yeah, no, it's all good, but I just don't forget those questions. But there'll be time at the end.
So refusing to make a property available that is available, or negotiating with somebody, refusing to make a mortgage loan or provide insurance, threatening or intimidating somebody, and sexual harassment. So if somebody tells you can live in this property, but you have to have sex with me and I won't pay, you don't got to pay your rent, like you don't have to do those things. And those things happen every single day, but people they're scared and they don't know who to tell or what to do. So be mindful if you see that with like your friends and family, have them say something. And make, let's see. So when you see this symbol, this is the fair housing symbol. Has anybody ever seen this symbol before on something? Okay, so you usually see them with landlords, at banks, real estate agents, title companies, things of that nature. And this is just a sign that they are required to put on their information to say that they are not going to discriminate against families that they're helping find homes, or against families that live in their properties. So I hold people true to this. Like when I see it, I'm like, you have the equal opportunity sign on there. Obviously, that's part of the Urban League's logo too, so I'm really making sure. So possible signs of discrimination. I've said a couple of these, but if you go somewhere and they say families with children only live in the back of the complex, or I will have to charge you for a pet deposit for your guide dog. Like if you have an emotional support animal, they should not charge you to have a pet, because it's not a pet. It was two different things, okay? So sometimes we just take it like it's $25, but it's $25 you can keep. You go to McDonald's, take your kids on the trip, whatever. you don't want to live in that neighborhood. So anybody ever heard a radio ad where it's like people saying, but they don't want me to live over here? Y'all hear fair housing radio ads sometimes? Anybody? Not really? Okay, we're gonna do better. Thank you. So if you want to live on the north side, for instance, in Elyria, and you have the money to buy that home, you can. But sometimes real estate agents will be like, let me show you houses on the west side, or let me show you houses on the south side, because they want to put you where your people are. But you can live wherever you want, because maybe you want to live on the north side because you want your kids to go to a different school district, or whatever that looks like. So just be mindful that you can look at all the properties, but if you feel like they're steering you in a direction that you don't want to go in, you can say something to them. Or you could just file a complaint and get you another real estate agent. Okay? And then I don't think a wheelchair will fit through our doors. So disability is like a large portion of fair housing. Like there's modifications we won't go over today of things that the landlord needs to help you do so that you can live comfortably in your apartment or your home. But then there's also some things that fall on the tenant or the renter to be able to build whatever they need and then take it down when they leave. So we have a whole fair housing presentation at the Urban League that's just on disabilities because it's a lot of moving pieces and parts. So if you have any questions about that, you can ask me at the end or you can call the Urban League. So all that to say that King's unfulfilled vision of having equal opportunity rights in housing is today. Like I wish I could sit here and tell y'all that on his 94th birthday, we're doing so much better and anybody can live where we want. We know that we have a lot more rights than we had 94 years ago. So we're extremely grateful for that. But at the same time, in today's market, housing market, we see discrimination every single day. Whether that's with auditors, whether that's with title companies, whether that's with real estate agents, whether that's with landlords, I mean, all over the place. So to prove my point, just in case y'all truly don't believe me, I'm gonna show y'all this video of a couple in California.
So while she's pulling that up, it's a lot of information, right, that we're learning right now. And like she said, at the end of it, Urban League's open, their doors are always open, they're available, there's